Hello there, guys. 1 minute. How's everyone doing today? I hope it's going pretty well. Um, First things first is I like to send prayers and condolences out to Louisiana, Mississippi, and parts of Alabama who is going through this awful, awful storm. Um, Prayers are with you, and I hope you manage to get through it safe and sound. Just awful, awful with this hurricane. What's going on with Louisiana right now? So so if I may ask, who's ready for football season? I am. um, I'm a Falcons fan, by the way, so uh, you know how it goes down here. Nevertheless, how's everybody doing tonight? Welcome back for another episode of Wrestling Quick Takes. I think that's what I'm going to name it. Wrestling Quick Takes. Think that sounds appropriate enough. Know what I mean? Yeah. Oh yeah. So for this week's quick take, um, this one takes us back about over somewhere in the neighborhood of over about 20 years. Um, to be exact, the year is 2000 actually. Um, I would have turned 10 years old back in 2000. So, or the summer of 2000 anyway. So, but who remembers WCW's Bash at the Beach 2000? Because that's where this week's quick take takes us. And I named it Bash at the Beach 2000 Problem. It's kind of it's kind of WCW's version of the Montreal screw job, but in this particular case, there was money, there was frustration, there was animosity, and there was hatred, and there's hatred involved in this. So, with that being said, I'm gonna hear my notes here, and that I'll go on and get started here. Bash at the Beach 2000 problem. And it goes a little something like this. Oh boy, the year 2000, in my opinion, was the hottest year in professional wrestling. I mean, not only did we have WWE, WCW, but you had ECW. So you had three brands at that time. I would have turned 10 years old that summer, and I still remember how hot the business was. Even though WCW was dying a slow, painful death, the company still gave us great action. In the summer of 2000, WWE put on their summer tradition known as Bash at the Beach. But on this particular night, a certain issue took place in the ring involving Hulk Hogan, Jeff Jarrett, and Vince Russo, not to mention Eric Bischoff. And it's still being talked about to this day. Today, I will be talking about the infamous Bash at the Beach 2000 incident, plus plus how we got Jeff Jarrett versus Booker T. So let's do it. I'm going to start off by reading Hulk Hogan's story. Hulk Hogan was popular in 2000. He may not have been as popular like he was in the 80s and 90s, but he was still popular to the fans. Hogan was up there in age. He was 46 years old at the time. The year 2000, at the time the year 2000 came around. All of a sudden, Bash at the Beach comes around and Hogan's lawsuit comes. According to the Sportster.com, once Hogan and Bischoff learned of Russo's duplicity, Hulk sought legal action. He cited that everything up until the shoot promo had gone on, according to the script. But when Russo's shoot included words and phrases such as politician and a piece of shit, you know, Hogan was never seen in WCW and filed a lawsuit against the company for defamation of character, as well as denying him his creative control clause. The lawsuit eventually got tossed out. That was Hulk's story. This is Vince Russo's story. As many of you know, Vince Russo worked for WWE many, many years. But as time went on, he felt the need for a different challenge, making World Championship Wrestling great again. When Russo came in, many people he could save, he could give W. When Russo came in, many people he could save W. Many people thought he could save WCW, but he failed miserably. It just didn't work out in the end. But I personally believe he did do his best, but his ideas just weren't cutting it. According to the Sportster.com, when Russo came in, he really wanted to shake things up, much like he helped WWE do. Fans and detractors can say what they want about him, but during the late 90s, Russo helped to push some of the younger WWE stars that became legends, and also helped to make sure that just about everyone on the roster had some sort of story and some amount of screen time to help get it over. He would bring he would bring that same style over to WCW, which for a time worked in theory. But in practice, plenty of the veterans who weren't quite ready to be put out to pasture were inadvertently in Russo's way, and he had little to do no intention to use them. And Hogan was at the top of that list of Russo's so-called good old boys. Now it gets really good and interesting. Hulk Hogan and Creative Control. Hulk Hogan was a living legend around this time, and he had demanded more because the name of his statue deserves better. According to the Sportster.com, according to Eric Bischoff, in various media over the years, Hulk Hogan stroking his FU mantra and saying, "That doesn't work for me, brother," happened several times throughout his run at WCW. But he only invoked the creative control clause in his contract one time at Bash at the Beach. Vince Russo's original idea left nothing for the Hulk and his character afterwards, and that rubbed the Hulkster the wrong way. Much like a lot of the big stars, Hulk too was willing to do business, provided the booker could see the bigger picture. Russo tossed something at the wall and see what sticks. Way of booking with no grand design or end game was not appealing to the immortal one. Now we get to the original plan. Sometimes in life when you have things planned a certain way, they could sometimes go a different route. That's exactly what happened at Bash at the Beach 2000. According to the Sportster.com, at Bash at the Beach, the very event 4 years ago that Hulk Hogan turned heel and formed the NWO, he was set to take on Jeff Jarrett for the WCW title. According to several sources, particularly Russo, Bischoff, and Evening Hogan, the original plan for the match was very similar to what all of the fans saw on pay-per-view. Hogan would somehow win the match and leave WCW with the title. Then several months later, after Jarrett had been built up as a huge heel champion, Hogan would return with his belt and the two would do battle again. This time with Hogan again winning both belts. The creative meeting at Bash at the Beach. The meeting went down at Bash at the Beach was a private meeting behind closed doors. According to the Sportster.com, when it was apparent that Hogan wasn't willing to play ball, Russo supposedly had a meeting with all of the people who helped him in WCW creative prior to Bash at the Beach. Russo and his creative team decided that Booker T should be the WCW champion by the end of the night, and he deserved to finally be in the spot. At least that part would probably be universally accepted by wrestling fans. Unfortunately, over the years, memories, fibs, and outright lies from all parties involved from a narrative from a narrative. For whatever reason, it seemed that the entire industry is on the side of Russo, is always on the other, which makes it hard to decipher some of Russo's claims like this one. What really happened? You know, sometimes in life you do things you should not do, and we make mistakes. I believe Mr. Russo made a mistake by going into business for himself on this particular night. According to the Sportster.com, after the meeting that Russo supposedly had with Creative and after he appeased Hulk Hogan by collaborating on the new storyline, Russo set his plan into action. Nobody had ever told Jarrett about the plan. When the match started, Vince Russo came out and ordered Double J to simply lay down, flashing the WCW title to Hogan. Russo mentioned Russo motioned for the Hulkster to pin Jarrett and win the title because Eric Bischoff was again removed from creative shortly before this. There was no oversight to stopping Russo from going into business for himself. Russo. No wonder why nobody likes Russo. Russo told not to call Hogan. As time goes on in sports, I believe the relationship between players and the coach are extremely important because that's how you build a bond. In this case, Russo and Hogan did agree on everything, well, almost everything. According to the Sportster.com, Hogan, according to Russo, he and Hogan had agreed on everything, including the shoot promo. They also agreed that Hogan that wait, he agreed on everything, including the shoot promo. They also agreed that he would Hogan after Nitro go over plans. He and Hogan would go over plan after Nitro. Per Russo, the two the head of Turner at the time, Brad Siegel, has actually thought the whole storyline was real, and took it as an opportunity to not bring Hogan or his lofty paycheck back to WCW. That he actually instructed Russo not to call Hulk Hogan or so over over any plans with furthering Hogan's thought that he saw Russo do was wait, hold on, guys. Hold on a minute, guys. Uh Per Russo, the head of Turner at the time, Brad Siegel, has actually thought the whole storyline was real and took it as an opportunity to not bring Hogan or his lofty paycheck back to WCW. He actually instructed Russo not to call Hogan on so over any plans, with furthering Hogan's thought that what he saw Russo do was actually a shoot and he had been coned out of his spot in WCW. Wow. 20 years later, it's hard to understand what happened 20 years ago on a hot summer night in Daytona, Florida at Bash at the Beach 2000. In my opinion, this incident rivals the infamous Montreal Screwjob in some sense or another. According to the Sportster.com, 20 years later, the three supposed parties involved, Russo, Hogan, and Bischoff, are all still hold a position in the sports entertainment business in one way or another. Hogan enjoys his status as the legend who brought the industry to the masses. Bischoff has a successful podcast with Comrade Thompson, and Russo has a fledgling podcast network of his very own. What makes the WCW screw job perhaps even more fascinating than the Spider Lady or the Montreal is that there is something that actually happened at Bash at the Beach, something that was intended to happen, and something that actually did happen. The issue comes into play with Vince Russo, who has become literally the black sheep of the wrestling business in an industry where you should never say never. The likelihood of Russo ever being fully accepted by a national promotion again is almost literally impossible, thanks to a lot of more people than just Bischoff and Hogan calling him out on his lies or supposed lies. That makes it very that makes it very hand to actually piece together makes it very hard to actually piece together what happened at Bash at the Beach. I would have turned 10 years old that summer, so I remember. That's all for this week. And until next time, God bless. So this issue at Bash at the Beach, um, there's plenty of frustration, there's plenty of hatred, there's plenty of animosity, and there's a lot of lies. But at the end of the day, I mean, I felt it was bad for the business, and I felt this is basically the Alcatraz that drew World Championship Wrestling underwater. So that issue, it really sticks deep in my heart these 20 years later, as me being now a 31-year old. But yeah. So let me know what you guys and girls think about this Bash at the Beach issue. I mean, did you I mean, was it bad for business? Was Russo actually telling the truth? Should he not have cut the shoot promo? Let me know what you guys think in the comments sections below. And don't forget about the poll. Do you think Booker T should have won the title from Jeff Jarrett? Please vote. And I guess that's going to do it for me, guys. And until next week, God bless.